Okay.
So when the leadership and the district are on one accord, then everybody works together. And remember, I told you that this district at that particular time had a vision, and the vision
Mm-hmm.
was to put children first.
First,
So that
right.
meant everything that every person that worked in that school did was to put the children first. And that meant the janitors.
Right.
They couldn't leave trash on the floors because the children might slip, fall, hurt themselves, right?
Right. Hey everyone, it's me, Regina Hasan, your host for the Pregnant with Purpose podcast. I'm glad to have you with me here today. We have another great show. Today we're going to be talking about education with a purpose, or educating with purpose. You hear a lot of things in the media about what's wrong with our education field today. There are a lot of negative things being said, but I am a true believer that I think that there are some people out there who are still dedicated to educating and offering opportunities to our young kids today. So, and I just want to have an opportunity today to kind of talk to them and to discuss the not so much as what's wrong with it, but what's being done right with it. So, let me introduce you to my guests. Hello, everyone.
Good evening, Regina.
As I call your name, would you please give us a little bio about yourself? Like how long you've been in the field, or how long you've been in and out of the field. Yeah, give us that little bio that includes how long and what you're doing now. Uh, and I'm gonna start with Dr. Karen Haynes. Dr. Haynes, we are so happy to have you with us here today. Tell us a little bit about who you are. I know who you are, but tell everyone else.
Good
Well,
evening.
everyone else probably knows.
All right, good evening. My name is Dr. Karen Haynes. I am an educator for local school district. I have been in education for approximately 26 years. Small bio, I am not a traditional educator. I am a licensed professional counselor. My title is Director for Mental Health and Social Services. So I'm basically all things crisis. I feel like I did not choose education. Education chose me. My undergraduate degree is in social work. My master's is in counseling, and my doctorate is in psychology. However, I found my passion within the school district. I've served with heart for many years, and I absolutely love working with adolescents, children, adults, anyone that I can find that is in need of to be mentally well and social support to them as well. Thank you for this opportunity, Mrs. Hassan.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Mr. Stephen Thompson Jr.
Okay. I was in education for 9 years. I worked in everything from after school care till I finally moved on to middle school being a TA, and then I finally got into the classroom as a special education teacher. I recently got out of it in March. I have a true passion for education. I believe it's the foundation of everything. I love the well-being of children. I want to just, I wish I was still teaching, but I had to move on and do other things. But yes, I still have that passion for teaching. So yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely.
And Miss Rosalie Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Rosalie Williams. I'm a retired educator. Worked for a school district for 20 years. Was fortunate enough to start my career at one campus and finish my career on that same campus.
Oh.
So I got to see 20 years of progress within one district on one campus. Oh. And I must say that it was a journey that I thoroughly enjoyed. Never had a desire to be into education, but I had a child late. And I was looking for an opportunity to work in a field that I would have an opportunity to be off when my child was off. Education was the key. Whenever she had a holiday, I had a holiday. She was my only daughter, and that was my basic reason for working in education. I started off when she was in elementary school, volunteering on her campus, being actively involved on everything that was happening on that campus. Knew the principals, all the teachers, the administrators. I was volunteering on everything that they had available. Uh, and then had an opportunity by a mentor that meant a lot to me to come to me one day and ask me, had I ever thought about working in education? And from that conversation, she mentored me unknowingly and nudged me into the field of education. So I did my 20 years. I am happily retired now. I would say that I'm still giving because I visit my campus and stay on top of everything that's going on there.
This is a great panel we have here. We have an educator who has been in the field for 26 years and who's still working in the field. We have an educator who's in the field for 9 years, who's no longer in the field. And then we have an educator who is retired after 20 years in the field. So this should make a great discussion. Now, Ms. Williams has already answered like my first question. What got you into education? Ms. Williams already touched on it. And I like your transparency that you got into it because, you know, you wanted to be off when your child was off. And there are some educators I know that share that same reason for getting into the field. So, Dr. Haynes, you said it chose you. You didn't choose it.
So and when I said that, what I meant was I worked at a local agency, neighborhood centers, and I met a young lady while I was at the center. I was only working part-time. I just had my first child, stayed home for a year, and I was returning to the world of work. When she came to the facility on many occasions, a social services worker, getting food for her families that she served. The agency said they were going to close down. Neighborhood centers were supposed to be going out of business. Just in having a conversation with her one day, I shared that with her. I was kind of excited about returning home with my son, who was just having a very difficult time adjusting to daycare. And she started to tell me about Harris County Community Services where she works. She said, we have positions available. And you know, in having a conversation with her, I would take the information down. I said, oh yeah, I'll reach out. A couple of weeks would go by, she'd come back in, she'd ask me about had I reached out. I would say no. After it happened a few times, I didn't want to have to answer no again, so I reached out to him. I applied for the job. When I applied, the famous question came up, which I was a new graduate from college, and I heard that a lot in job hunting. I did not have the experience that they needed for that position. Mm-hmm. So when she came in, I was like, finally, I can say I applied, and I don't have the experience. But when I shared that information with her, she said, oh, don't worry. I know the director. I'll just let him know about you. I was like, good Lord. That was my opportunity to go home with this child of mine. Well, she did just that. She got me an interview. When I got to the interview, I got the job. The job led me to work in the school district that I'm currently working in as a community youth services worker. I served in that capacity for 8 years. I went to become a supervisor with the county. Did not enjoy it. I missed the kids. I missed the schools. They would not let me return to the field. So I just quit. Reached out to some folks I knew in the school district. They gave me an opportunity. And about a year later, I was rehired by the county and vowed I would never leave again. I was back in my school district that I loved. Exactly 1 year to my retirement with the county, I received a call from the district offering me a position. I must say I was in a dilemma. I reached out to my mom. I was like, what do you think I ought to do? She said, well, you said you'd never leave. Long story short, I took a chance on me, got hired by the district, and I've been there since 2005. And I plan to stay as long as God will allow me to stay. So that's my reason for saying education chose me, because I had never thought about working in a school district or working for a school district. But once I had that opportunity, I met lots of people that I fell in love with, lots of children I fell in love with, and just fell in love with the passion of education. So here I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Thank you. Steve, what
Um,
drew you to the field of education?
well, I never wanted to be a teacher. Also, when I grew up, I wanted to be an architect, and I mean, I just ended up not doing that. But I came back home from school, and I needed a job. I had just had shoulder surgery, and so that job let me go. And so I used to pick up my nephews from the Boys and Girls Club all the time. And so one day I came in, and I don't know why, I must have looked like I needed a job. And she asked me, she said, "Hey, we looking to hire some people. Do you need a job?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would. I do need a job." So I went to the interview. It was an interesting interview, probably one of the best interviews ever, because they made me like sing on the spot just to see how spontaneous I was, like how good I would be with the kids. So yeah, I knocked that interview out. And so I started May 1st. And then right around Father's Day, that's about a month and a half into me getting there, a little girl, I'll never forget her name. Her name was Fortune. She walks up to me and gives me this Father's Day card. And I'm like, well, I'm not your daddy. So right. I'm like, okay, what's that about? So she says,
at least I
don't she was too old anyway. But anyway, but no, I say that, but she gave me the card and she was just, I'm like, well, what's this about? She was just like, listen, I know you ain't been here this long, but I really appreciate you for being here. You impacted my life. And, I need positive, males in my life like you. And I just wanted to give you this token of my appreciation. And I was good from there. I melted. I said, oh man, I got to work with kids for the rest of my life. So yeah, that's what made me pursue education. Because
what a compliment. What a compliment.
Yeah.
So, okay, everybody. So we hear on the news everything that's wrong with education today. A lot of critics about what's going on, and I'm sure there are some things that are not going so well. But what is it that drives you to continue to want to be in this field in spite of all that's being said and all the things that are going around? What is it that still drives you to go to your campus, Ms. Williams, to still check in with your campus? And Steve, to go out there and deal with the young people at Unlimited Vision at the residential facility. And Dr. Haynes, what has you getting up every day in and day out? And I know that you are very diligent and very dedicated to your assignment, that you are very dedicated to your assignment. What is it that gets you up in spite of all this negative talk that, school is no good, all the negative publicity, I don't know where my tongue went, publicity surrounding education today? And I'm going to start with Ms. Williams on that
one. I would say that when I started volunteering as a parent in, I would say around about 1998, I was in a district that had a vision. And the vision was children's first. And as a parent, I saw that vision and that motto and that theme that was in every campus that was involved in that particular district truly believed in the vision of putting children first. I saw this as a parent, not as an educator. So I was excited that my child was in a district that was going to put her first and consider the whole child and not just a part of the child. They said they had a vision and they showed that they had a vision. It just wasn't a mouthpiece. It wasn't just a motto. The educators that were working back then were dedicated. And what I mean by dedicated, they believed in the vision and they worked every day to accomplish that vision. The administrators, they believed in the vision and they did everything that they could to support the teachers that was in the district. So I got to see that as a parent. When I made the transition and started working in the district, I had to figure out, well, how am I going to contribute to the district? What am I going to bring? And I did not have an educational background. I thought that I wasn't going to be able to fit in because I was working with all of these doctors with degrees and all of this and titles and everything. And I was just a parent. But once I got in, I realized that I had more to offer than some of those people with the degrees because I was a parent. I was bringing experience as a parent. Yes. And when a parent gets into a school and they truly are dedicated to give to that school, they are very powerful. They are just as strong as those administrators. They come with ideas. They take them to the administrators. The administrators take those ideas and they run with it. And in my 20 years in that district, I saw myself do that. I could just have a conversation with an individual. And as I called it, just drop a nugget. Well, I think this, whatever would work. And about a year later, that nugget I dropped to that administrator was progress. So I was impressed that they listened to the cafeteria people, the janitors, whoever was giving them advice. They listened, you know. That's good. And that made I was hooked after that. So my position was a pilot position. Like I said, it was in 1998. In 2000, the federal government came with Title I, and they started pouring funding into the districts for at-risk students. Okay. And so the title at-risk was introduced to all of the districts throughout the state of Texas, and they got all of this money, and they had to figure out what they were going to do with it. And like I said, the administrators in that particular district had a vision. And they believed that when they got this money, they were going to put that money to good use. And so they came up with a position that they called at that particular time, it was a truancy clerk who worked with at-risk students. So when I got the position, I was like, well, what is an at-risk student? So I did my homework. You know, I checked to see what an at-risk student was, what the qualifications was, who would identify that student, how the student was identified and everything. And I actually wrote the job description for a truancy clerk in that particular right. And it was the pilot district. So every truancy clerk in whatever district they may be throughout the state of Texas actually are working on the model that I set up in that particular.
All right, Miss Williams.
My home.
Yeah, Miss Williams. And I'm just really.
And it was a success. You know, it truly was. Once I realized what an at-risk student was, and to be honest with you, that was every student in the school.
Right, exactly.
Had some indicator that qualified them to be an at-risk student. All the money had to be dispersed equally. You couldn't just give it to one section, you know. And so working as a truancy clerk, it was my job to go in, try to find out why these children weren't coming to school. They meant going into the homes, talking to the parents, you know.
I mean, and that's still going on today. That's still going on today in the school district.
Exactly. I wasn't a counselor, but I learned how to be a counselor.
That's great. That's great, Miss Williams.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah, that is great. Now I see how it can be done. Yes. What would drive anybody to get up every day? Right. Dr. Haynes, I know you get up.
Saying I have passion seems so cliche, but the reality of it is I always wanted to help people. And my undergraduate degree, like I said, is in social work. That's where it started. The school district gave me a platform to really, really make a difference and help families in need. And working with a group of people who truly led with heart and continues to lead with heart makes it very easy to do. We're a Title I district. So it means that some of our children are from hard places. Homes are very difficult, lower socioeconomic status. however they continue to come to work. We form great relationships with parents. Our families are in need, and our district provides such great support to the families that we serve. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to be a part of helping children move to the next level. Even though things may be difficult, getting an opportunity to teach children that the key to it all is to get an education that's going to help to take them to another level. And education will take them places that they would not ordinarily go. And to be surrounded by a group of educators, because definitely, absolutely, we cannot do this work alone. To have people who share the vision that you have, to see students actually reach their potential, and to get students who are broken at the time that you meet them because of the traumas that have happened in their lives, meet them with love and compassion and see them grow into young adults, young successful adults, is my why. And I stand behind that because I've seen it happen. I know it can be done. And again, I'm not doing it alone. I have lots and lots of support from the parents to school personnel, which makes my job a lot easier when people are willing to move to the next level.
Hi, I'm Stephen Thompson. And when I'm not DJing and giving people the vibes, I'm cultivating a community at Community Cultivation Network. We'd love to see you. We'd love to have you. We'd love for you to view our podcast. Not only are we the best, we're the best. And if you don't believe us, that's too bad. We love you. From here and everywhere else.
Now let's get back to cultivating community. Yes.
So it's safe to say that there are some people out there that are still dedicated to doing this type of work, right?
Absolutely,
safe to say that.
Absolutely safe to say that.
Yeah. Because, like I say, you hear so much. They talk about the shortage in teachers. We all know about that there is such a shortage in teachers, and but there are some teachers showing up every day, and I just really see teachers as being unsung heroes. I really do. Anyone in the education field, not just teachers. Let me just say that right now. It's not just teachers. Anyone in this field, I feel like they are unsung heroes. And in saying that, I want to know, what do you think that the difference from what it used to be, Dr. Haynes and Ms. Williams, y'all been there 20 years ago, 26 years ago. What do you think the difference in education, and even Steve, who, could go back 9 years ago, the difference between education then, when you first entered into it with your wide eyes and your, I'm going to make a difference, until now, what do you see as the difference?
I think initially
let me start with Steve.
Okay.
I think there's less accountability for the children. I think that they blame or find blame in the educator instead of actually looking into what the situation is. And I think that the accountability has changed, at least for me. There used to be more. When there were rules and regulations set in place, if you went outside of those rules and regulations, there were consequences or just repercussions of things that, there were policies and procedures in play. And I think that there's too many gray areas right now and within that. So I think that's the biggest difference for me.
For you, between now, okay. Mm-hmm. Dr. Haynes, what do you see as the difference in 26 years ago to today? 26 years ago, let me ask this question. 26 years ago, was there prayer still in school?
26 years ago, no. Not in public school.
Prayer had gotten out. Because when I was in school...
Not in the public school.
Look here, Dr. Haynes. 26 years ago, you said there was no prayer. When I was in school 27 years ago, no, really. I was in school back when I was in school. Prayer was still a part of it. So I can say wholeheartedly, that's one difference that I think is that, they no longer have prayer in school. But Dr. Haynes, what do you see the difference?
I think initially when I started I saw children actually come to school and parents thought it was a place that I'm sending my child to get educated academically.
Right.
And I think the shift has happened, not that the need had not been there, the need has always been there, that in order for us to educate children from an academic standpoint, we have to make sure that basic needs are met. If a child is hungry, they're not focused on math and science and reading. If a child does not know where they're going to go at the end of the day, child is being molested at home, things that should not happen in homes are happening, then we have to first address those needs before we can get them to the point of being educated. Schools are more open and understanding. There's been lots and lots of trauma training to where the traditional educators are now learning what I've been taught in my schooling is what are some signs to look for? How do we report when there's abuse in the home? One of the things when I started as a district employee, I was a special education counselor. The biggest thing that I try to share about that, or what my biggest takeaway from that position was, I learned that children are not born emotionally disturbed. I worked with lots of students who were emotionally disturbed. Life circumstances led to it. So to stay on the question of what do I think is the biggest difference, I think that as educators and as a society, we're addressing mental health disorders and trauma very differently. Initially, what I saw, we saw children as being bad, quote unquote, bad.
That's right.
I've always stood by to believe there are no bad children, there are bad choices. And now I've learned, even with getting more education myself about trauma experiences lead to negative behaviors. And because children don't know how to put into words the bad things that have happened to them, we start to see the behaviors. So they start to act out as a way to say, I really need some help. Schools are addressing it very differently. We're not just looking at a behaviors and saying this child is bad. We're looking at what interventions can we put in place to support this child who is displaying some inappropriate behaviors. So we're meeting children with more compassion, addressing their needs in a much better way than we were 26 years ago for lack of knowledge. We've learned more about trauma, how to address it, and we're doing a much better job as school districts, not just my district, but across the nation, in addressing behaviors and being more open-minded. And parents, educating parents, because parents are also becoming more open-minded and working with the schools and not seeing the schools as an enemy.
Right. That's good, Dr. Haynes. Because a teacher came to school, not even a teacher, a food service worker came, and they came just to do that job, And even though during my day, we were blessed to have teachers that had that social worker heart. They cared enough about you. They reached out, they hugged you. They could hug you. They cared about if you were, tired, sleepy. But basically, they would just basically report it to your parent and not get involved. But their main job was to educate. If they were in food service, that's what their main job was. But now it has to be different, where it's not just about, coming in, it's not a 8 to 5 regular gig, punch in and punch out, especially with the youth that we are encountering today. Not that wasn't going on back then, but it sure wasn't as overt back in the day. The kid that had the problem, maybe his problem was he was a bedwetter or she was a bedwetter, and they got teased a lot in coming to school, but it wasn't seen upon as trauma. And the teachers surely did not get involved to that extent. So thank you, Dr. Haynes. Thank you. Ms. Williams, what do you think the difference is now than 20 years ago?
Well, my personal experience is this. I was lucky enough to start working in education at a time where the leadership for the state of Texas was a female. Ann Richards was the governor.
Ann Richards.
The superintendent of the district that I worked for was a female. And I think a lot of time women have nurturing hearts. So the vision that the governor had for Education in the state of Texas at that time was in conjunction with the vision that the superintendent for the particular district that I lived in also had.
Okay.
So when the leadership and the district are on one accord, then everybody works together. And remember, I told you that this district at that particular time had a vision, and the vision was to put children first. So that meant everything that every person that worked in that school did was to put the children first. And that meant the janitors. They couldn't leave trash on the floors because the children might slip, fall, hurt themselves, right? So they had to clean the floors. The cafeteria people. We were talking about children was obese and they was overweight. So, okay, we can't feed the babies the way we used to feed the babies, you know. So back then, everybody worked on one accord. Today, you got people that are in education not to serve the child, but to further their careers. I'm just going to be honest about it.
Wow, that's real talk. That's real talk.
They're on a personal mission, you know, and it doesn't have anything to do with the child. They're looking at the numbers, the statistics, what looks good. We're going to send this up to the state, and as long as the state say we're doing good, that's all right, you know. So then when something happens like what happened in Uvalde, everybody's looking at each other. Okay, but if you would go back to the basics and just try to be a district that wasn't about reacting, but was about trying to prevent. Okay, so when you try to prevent, you try to look and see what could happen and how can we prevent it from happening. When you react, you wait for it to happen, and then you start thinking of, well, what can we do better?
And then it's too late. Too many lives have been lost.
It's right. It's too late. So I think that's the big difference in educators in the past and in educators today. If everybody would just go back to the basics and put the child first, and what can we do to see to it that this child is a whole person and that they are successful citizens when we send them out into the world. That's it.
Thank you, Miss Williams. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just going to end this with saying, or with asking this last question. First, I want to thank all of you for joining me today. I want to thank all of y'all for joining me today. I really do appreciate you taking the time. Miss Williams, I'm going to have you back on my podcast again. One word that I want to hear from you, Miss Williams. Yes.
I want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
Thank Dr. Haynes. She was the one that turned me on to you.
Hey, Dr. Haynes believe in taking people out of their comfort zone. But she do know I love to talk. Okay, Ms. Williams would be perfect because she gonna tell
That's what she did. She said that. She said Ms. Williams would be perfect. Oh, I got somebody. She sure did. But I just want to end by asking this last question, okay? In your what's that commercial? Walgreens commercial. In your perfect world. Okay. In your perfect world, as far as education is concerned, what would it look like? Last question, Steve.
What does that look like? It looks like educating outside of just math, science, English. Sometimes these kids get out of school and they don't have any skills. They just smart. And sometimes I think we need to teach these kids how to live their life. We should teach them about taxes. We should teach them how to write a resume. Now they're putting trades and stuff back into schools to where they can graduate with their associates and stuff. My nephew happens to be one of those people who's going to graduate this year with his associates. And I'm proud of him for that. But that wasn't really a thing. They had special schools for that. We called them magnet schools when I was coming up. And it's kind of like, Well, what's stopping? Not everybody's going to go to college, and I do believe you should. If you don't go to college, you should definitely have some sort of higher education, and I think that should start. You get the basis of that in middle school, in high school, to where when you get out in the real world, you're not just running through the wind, blowing like the wind. So I think that's what the perfect world would be. Let's educate outside of the basics.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Miss Williams, what's your perfect world?
In education,
besides bringing Ann Richards back, may she rest in peace. But she was my governor too. She was my governor because she was in recovery. I'm in recovery. She was in recovery, and that's when she was my governor. Yeah, yeah. So, what's your perfect world?
In my perfect world, I would like to see every individual that works with children, whether it be in education or social work or detention, criminal justice with the children, all be on one accord. And what I mean by that is, what is the best thing? I keep going back to it. Children first. What is the best thing for this child? Because if you make the child happy, then the mama and the dad is going to be happy. Home, right?
Right.
If you got a happy home, then you don't have to worry about mamas killing their children.
Right.
Or children killing their parents. Or their grandparents. Make the home happy again and make the home what it was created to be.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Happy home, happy future.
Amen.
Okay, Dr. Haynes, we're going to close it out with you.
I would say a combination of everything that was shared. Really on getting parents to understand the value of education, first of all, because all of our parents do not understand the value of education. Sometimes in a perfect world, it would look like educating the parent along with the child.
Amen.
Just like Steve mentioned about the finances, about those things, because parents are coming with the knowledge that they have at the time they have a child. And if education wasn't important to them at that time, it may still not be important. Getting them to buy in order for it to work, there has to be buy-in in this process. I've been a public school educator for 26 years. My children had an opportunity to go to private school, and the value of education is different when that dollar is associated with it. And for their children to attend school, have a different vision about what they want. Not every parent who has children in a public school setting lack or don't see the vision. There are lots of parents who see the vision, but we also have lots of parents who don't see the vision. So getting parents to buy in, working with the teachers. There's a poem, and if you don't mind, I'll close with this.
Go ahead, Dr. Haynes.
It's a unity poem, and I absolutely love it. And the author is unknown. It says, I dreamt I stood in a studio and watched two sculptures there. The clay they used was a young child's mind, and they fashioned it with care. One was a teacher. The tools they used were books, music, and art. The other a parent working with a guiding hand and a gentle, loving heart. Day after day, the teacher toiled and touched that with a touch that was deft and sure, while the parent labored close nearby and polished and smoothed it over. And when the task was done, they were proud of what they wrought, for the tools they had molded into a child could neither be sold nor bought. And each agreed they would have failed if each had worked alone, because behind the parent stood the school and behind the teacher stood the home. And that sums it up, because the reality of it is, in order for us to see the change, we have got to get our parents on board, and we've got to work with our parents. And the children that we serve, they must see us working together. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Once again, another great episode. I want to thank you all again for joining us. This theme for this season is living out your purpose, helping others. And I really do see the field of education as definitely being a helping field. Definitely being a helping field. Absolutely. So anytime you can open up someone's mind and help them see something else beyond themselves, it is definitely a benefit to that individual. So I want to thank y'all again. I close the show out with You Know You Old Win. And
don't go there, Regina.
Lord have mercy. I'm telling you, I'm gonna stop. Well, you know, I already shared with Miss Williams.
Yes, she did.
Miss Williams gave me her email address, and it was a mountain long. And at the end, she said ATT.net. I said, Lord have mercy. You know you old, because mine is a long one, and then it ends with AOL.com. You know, and nobody uses those anymore. So you know you're old. But this is my latest venture, and you know you're old. And I don't know if I told. No, I didn't tell this one. Did I tell this one? No, I didn't tell this one. Brittany, did I tell the one about how I dropped my keys? How I dropped my keys in the dog poop handler? If I did, I'm about to tell it again. Okay.
Brittany told you to put it in the chat.
Right. Yes, I did share that one. Okay, so let me share this one. So I'm getting ready. I'm taking a shower. I have a bench in my shower that has a marble surface, and I dropped something in. I dropped something in the shower, and as I bent over to pick it up, bam! I hit my head on the bench, and just for a minute, I stunned myself. Okay, so you know you're old when you know that you need one of those alert bracelets on you at all times. You don't know when you'll knock yourself unconscious, you know. But I should have had one of those alert bracelets. But anyway, it's all a part of life. Thank you, God, for me not being knocked out. I'm real grateful. I want to thank y'all once again. Thank my guests, these educators we've had on today. Y'all make it possible. And I'm going to end like I always do. You got to remember this. If you're not dead, God's not done. See you. Bye.
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 So you just got done watching Pregnant with Purpose, but that's not all we have. We also have Yes to Real Estate, and we also have Class in Session. Make sure you like, subscribe, listen to all of them. If you like it, like it. If you don't, it's too bad. You watched it already. So we good.